Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Journeys of Challenge, where we look at the challenging issues in life and try to study and learn about the opportunities that lie within them. And tonight, we're very honored to have a very special guest, uh, the CEO of a very prestigious and well-known senior home here in Jacksonville, Florida, from River Garden. The CEO is Mauri Mizrahi. Thank you so much, Mauri, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We're very honored. First of all, I just want to say Major Yashiko, thank you for your leadership in the community, leading a very distinguished center like River Garden through COVID. I know, Marty was the CEO at the beginning of COVID. But you and your team, together with him and his team, just can't imagine. I know on synagogue life was challenging. I can't imagine how challenging it was during that period. So, our hats off to you for that, and everything else you do for River Garden and the greater community. So, we look to you and River Garden with great admiration, and we're honored that you spent the time tonight to come on and share some of your thoughts. So, thank you.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about an area of life that a lot of people maybe put off, and there are certain uncomfortable situations in life where we just rather not have that conversation, rather not think about it. But sometimes it creeps up on us or in our families sooner than we anticipate. So I just wanted to have a conversation with you about this area in life. And this is, as people age, it's a blessing. The alternative to aging is, leaving this world early. So, aging is a blessing, but on the other hand, it brings with it a whole host of challenges, and people become less independent physically and perhaps in other ways as well as they age. And sometimes they contemplate, their family contemplates that they are no longer able to care for themselves on their own and live independently. So, and sometimes people are in denial, both maybe the individual themselves or the family members are in denial, or sometimes maybe there's a disagreement about that if they are in an independent state still or not. So I just wanted to just kind of approach this maybe just from 30,000 feet up in the air, and just what are general indicators, without getting too much into the weeds and the details, of when a person is in a certain phase where they or their family should think about perhaps that they would be best off not living independently.
Well, Rabbi Fish, the number one indicator that it's time to look at not living independently anymore is safety. That's always the number one thing that comes up. So when someone's no longer safe in their home, living by themselves, that's when we need to start looking at, well, what do we need to do as family members and caregivers to help that person be more safe. So what does that mean? What would be not living safely in your home look like? If someone starts to have some memory issues where they're forgetting to turn off the stove, or they're getting lost when they're driving places, or they're forgetting how to do their laundry, or they're neglecting their personal hygiene, or they're taking their medications incorrectly, those would all be indicators that maybe dad, grandma, grandpa need a little bit more help. And it's hard because they're adults, and generally they're adults that have taken care of us. And reversing those roles, first of all, is not always easy for a child, a nephew, a niece, a grandchild. But it's even harder for the person who is experiencing some of these issues to accept. Either they recognize that something's going on within themselves, or sometimes they may not recognize it, but if their child or someone who they've taken care of before is recognizing it and pointing it out, it's really a hard thing to accept. And so these conversations are not easy. within families, and it's not easy on either side.
Right. So safety is obviously very important, and that makes perfect sense when there are issues, lapses in safety. That would be very concerning, if not for the person themselves, but for the family members.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I've been, not directly involved in conversations, but I guess you can say on the sidelines
Mm-hmm.
of some of these conversations. And many times, the elderly person will resist any suggestion that they leave their home that they lived in for so many years and leave their comfort zone and go to a new place. Um, what are certain um, thoughts or you know insights that one can generally say to such a concerned elderly person that um, their independence now is going to be not as strong as it once was? What's something that can allay their concerns?
Well, I think it's a conversation about not really what you're leaving behind, but what you're moving toward. So nobody, I've never talked to anybody that in their plans, their life plans, that they making their list of what they'd like to do in their life, and on that list is move to a nursing home. I don't know anybody that puts that on their list. So when someone comes to a point in their life where others are telling them that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not safe here, you're falling, and I'm concerned about you. It's all out of love. I'm saying all of these things to you because I love you and I want you to be in a place that's going to be better for you, and that you'll have all the things that you need, and that I won't have to worry that something's going to happen to you, right? These are the conversations that family members might have with someone who's older, and it looks like they shouldn't be living alone anymore. But I can tell you from talking to folks that live on our campus that one of the big reasons why people resist moving to a place like River Garden is they feel like they're being abandoned. They don't want to be abandoned. And so you need to be compassionate about those conversations and visit often, and make sure to highlight the positives of moving into really a home, because this is a Jewish home, and it is a home. And if you talk to the folks who live here, they don't refer to River Garden as the nursing home. They refer to River Garden as their home, and as River Garden. And there's many advantages to moving into a place like this. A lot of people who are coming from, let's say, a house, they're living there by themselves. It's very isolating. And when you move into a place like River Garden, you have people to eat dinner with, lunch with, breakfast with every day. There's activities to do. There's people to come to your room to help you get to activities. There's people to talk to. There's beautiful places on the grounds to walk around and be outside in a safe environment. And there's new people to meet. And for a lot of people, it actually brings a whole new life to their life. So I think the important thing is accentuating the positives. But I'll tell you, if somebody's really dead set against going, they're not going to see those as positives. So these are challenging conversations. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no doubt. There was one time a comment that one of your colleagues, I guess former colleagues, Jim Richmond, said to me that really was eye opening for me, because I've always viewed it one way, in terms of this is the the beginning of the end, so to speak. Person's life, and this is the last phase before they pass away. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
those words, the beginning of the end, I one time heard from one of our community members when a conversation came up, and this individual was clearly in a compromised state, and he was not physically in a state where him or his family can give proper care. And the words was, he said that if I ever go to any facility or nursing home, it's going to be the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard something from Jim that kind of readjusted, my perspective. And Jim said, actually, the person will probably have a much better quality of life in their last few years in the world. I mean, they'll be eating more nutritious meals, and their medication will be properly taken care of. Sometimes are not able to go to the pharmacy, or not able to, get their proper medications in time. They're emotional. They're so, like you said, their social life will be a lot more, active and robust. If it's a Jewish nursing home like River Garden, they'll have the Judaism aspect. They'll be able to go to services and prayers, which is, so important for so many people. So their quality of life, in a sense, will increase, but by being in such a situation. Again, not for everybody, but for many people. And this was this was a an eye-opening perspective to me, and I've shared that with some with some people, as that they're in that stage. So definitely appreciate you sharing that. I guess in the same topic is that, people, even if they're not in a facility like River Garden, they're living in their home, and they are, let's say, even driving, and comes a time when the conversation is, it's, mom, dad, now it's time for you to stop driving, and no, I'm going to continue driving.
Mm-hmm.
These conversations, or these tough conversations, really, present themselves in more than just whether or not to go to nursing home. But I just want to get your perspective on something else, because I guess in this topic, because it seems like, our generation, people are living older and being able to accomplish more things in life than they used to be at a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, we have a president that's nearly 80. They're this is not a political conversation, but one of his declared opponents, if he were to be elected or not. He's also in his, the former Speaker of the House that just retired. I think Nancy Pelosi was in her 80s as well. So I guess my question is, do you find that people are accomplishing more as they're and being more effective as they age now than in previous years, or not necessarily?
Well, I do think that people are staying healthier longer, related to nutrition and exercise, and just our knowledge on how to take better care of ourselves. But I've always been one to, I don't think of age as a barrier to anything, because people are people, and adults are adults, and there's a wide range of first of all, what people accomplish in their life, and secondly, when they accomplish it. There's many people who have, second, third, fourth careers, moving into their 70s and 80s. My husband's grandfather had started an insurance business, or in his 80s. And, there's others that are, that we shouldn't let age limit the possibilities and things that we're able to dream and do in our life. And I think whether you're living independently in your home, or you come to live in a place in River Garden, that you can still be a member of the community. You can still be an effective person. And like you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, related to COVID and the ability to use the technology to reach out to people and connect with people that maybe you wouldn't be able to if that had not happened and we weren't used to doing these types of things um, uh, digitally. It's the same thing. The technology allows us to do so much more as we age and from wherever we are. So yes, I would say people are accomplishing more as they get older, but I also, and it's probably why I'm attracted to the work that I do, is that I don't necessarily see age. I see ability, I see vibrancy, I see uh, people wanting to do the same things that they've always done, and how do we help them do that? That's our job.
Right. Yeah, that's a great insight. Thanks for sharing that. That I knew a member here in the community that when he was 80 years old, he said, "I've never studied Talmud before. I want to start studying Talmud." And every day he came, for a pre-minyan class at 6 a.m. We have
Mm-hmm.
this class called here Daf Yomi, like a daily page, and it's a 7.5 year cycle. And he came every day till about, he was about 84 and a half, and then he became ill and passed away. But like for those 4.5 years, he studied most of the Talmud. And I just thought that this famous sage Rabbi Akiva, he started when he was 40, but this gentleman, and so your husband's grandfather, in their 80s, they can start something. So that's really a great point about having a mindset of I don't want to say necessarily a youthful mindset, but a mindset of can do and ability, and especially in today's times, there's much more flexibility, I think, perhaps in the past, for people to have second careers or third careers or fourth, like you said, than perhaps in earlier times. So, that's a great point. Let me just talk about a little bit the actual, day to day in an elderly person's life. Let's say River Garden. If they're having a concern about how they're going to maintain their independence, being that they're quote unquote like living in a facility, how can a person maintain, I guess, the most optimum life, once they transition into a facility like River Garden?
So first of all, in places like River Garden, we we definitely go by this rule. It's person-centered care. So what does that mean? It's a buzzword in senior facilities or skilled nursing facilities. What is person-centered care? And it's based on basically the preferences and the abilities of the person who lives here in the home. So every resident, has the right to live as independently as possible. And our goal is to facilitate it with safety and respect for others in the building in mind. So, some examples of that. We have no visiting hours here at River Garden. So, if you think about that, anybody can come and visit at any time. If you have, for whatever reason, someone needs to come here at midnight, they get off work, they work a night shift, just like if you were in your home, because this is their home, people can come by at any time to come and see you. And that even though that doesn't sound like something that would um, relate to independence, it really is, because if you're living in a place that's saying to you, well, your friends and family can only come see you at these certain times, that does affect how you independently might interact with others who don't live where you're living. Um, Residents can leave campus with friends and family as long as they inform the staff that they're leaving. This is not a prison, and you can come and go. Obviously, there's things to consider. If you need medications, or maybe there's a special transport because if you're limited in your physical abilities. But we're going to work toward helping that happen, and we partner with families to do that. Residents can choose the activities that they want to attend. We have a resident council that's the residents, that's run by the residents. They get together, they talk about the things that they like, they talk about the things that they don't like, they invite They invite department heads, so the heads of housekeeping and dining services and maintenance to come to their nursing, whomever, me, administration, to come to their meeting, and we share what's going on and give them the opportunity to ask questions. And something I always say when I go to that meeting is thank you for the opportunity to work in your home. So this is their home, and those are a few ways that that they can certainly remain independent. But yes, I mean, you're living together with other people. So in a congregate living situation, obviously there's rules because you have to have respect for others that that live with you. But most of the rooms here are private rooms, so you have your own room, and that room is your space. You can decorate it any way you'd like, as long as it doesn't affect the fire safety code or anything like that. But so you can bring your furniture from home. You can bring your personal knickknacks and tchotchkes from home to put in your room. Put your own pictures on the walls. You wear clothes that are yours. It's your clothes. So there's lots of ways to express your independence and remain your own person, because this is just it's your home.
Wow. Yes, that's really great. In fact, as you were talking, I was thinking that yesterday was Purim, and we had a member of Eitz Chaim that's currently at River Garden that he came to our Purim party yesterday, and it was really nice both for him and for, I think, everybody that saw him to to have him there, to have him here, and that really is a great point that you raised. It's people can come as they go as much as possible, and it's really their home. And I think for a lot of people, it really enhances their their quality of life as they are in a stage where they need more care or more assistance, and they're able to to get that care. Let me just continue our conversations by asking is, so let's say somebody has a parent or a grandparent or a community member that is transitioning to a place like River Garden. What is the best way to be supportive to such a parent or grandparent or community member?
So I'll tell you, a lot of times the reasons why people would move here is, one of the big reasons is if you're requiring some type of care 24 hours 7 days a week. So a lot of times that's related to heavy physical care, right? So somebody who is not able to get around anymore or needs help getting to the bathroom, or taking a bath, or dressing, and all of those things that require a lot of, we'll say, heavy caregiving. And I don't know this will exactly answer your question, but it's something I'll share, and then I'll get back to that too. Is what a lot of families will tell us is that when they do get to that point, because generally it's a family caregiver, it's a daughter or a son or some relative that's taking care of the family member. And when you're the caregiver, when you're the primary caregiver in somebody's home, that's what you are. You're the caregiver. And when they make the move here to River Garden because the care has become too much for staying at home, that person gets to become who they were before. So if it's the wife that's a caregiver, they come to River Garden. We take care of the bathing. We take care of the dressing. We take care of whatever other physical needs the person has, and the wife can come in and be the wife again. Be that friend, be that companion. Not worrying about, oh, I've got to make sure this bandage gets changed, or I've got to feed this one at this time, or make sure he gets his medications. And a lot of people will say, that obviously that the life for both, if it's a couple, becomes so much richer because we're taking care of the caregiver part. And it takes that responsibility off of the family member. And so in that respect, it really is a beautiful thing to be able to have River Garden in the community, to be able to assist families and being able to return to acting and being together. like a family. But I think you were asking me, how do you make it easier, to come into River Garden if you're moving from, from home in. And one of the things is really being compassionate about it, visiting often, um, making sure that that person knows that you still care about them. Because like I said before, I think people's biggest fear is that for whatever reason, whether it's something going on with memory, or it's a lot of hard physical issues that they recognize, it's hard to be at home as well. They just want to know that that you still love them, and that you're going to still be part of their life, and that you're not just leaving them here to be by themselves.
Right, that's a great point. I just want to get back to the earlier point you said about, taking care of the caregiver and assuming the role of the caregiver. I mean, obviously, you're much more plugged into this area of life than I am.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I've observed also is like spouses that are caregivers, or even children that are caregivers. Sometimes it takes a really big toll on them, physically, emotionally. Sometimes they're,
Mhm.
working. They come home and they feel they have to be a whole caregiver, and they get burnt out too. And it's not just a matter of taking care of the actual the person's ill or elderly, or another way that they don't have the ability to fully take care of themselves, but it's also the caregiver. And when you have the partnership of care, such as a place River Garden, I think that really really alleviates so much of the stress of the spouse or child. So thank you for raising that, and I'm definitely going to keep that in mind next time I'm in a conversation or on the sidelines of a conversation about this. Um, we're getting ready to kind of wind down our conversation. I just want to touch upon something that you briefly mentioned, and that is that you said something that attracted you to this field, to this line of work. I'm just curious about in general why somebody is attracted to this, to any field or work. Can you just expound on that? Because I think that's so valuable and informative for everybody that's
Sure.
listening.
I think really from a very young age, I was born a caregiver. I that is I just know that. I didn't know that's what it was when I was little and taking care of my sister, but it's just part of me. I've always been attracted to, I guess, taking care of people. So I think I know I've done it my entire life, whether it's been conscious or subconscious or unconscious. But I've always been a caregiver. I've always been drawn to that. And so, what does that mean? When I really in college, when I was picking a career, I'm a physical therapist, and I've done that for most of my career. This is a career change for me. So maybe when I'm 80, I'll have my third career, but I'm on the second right now. And but being drawn to being a physical therapist, that's really another form of caregiving, but also uh, being drawn to therapy and is I have always, even as a teenager, I've always been able to see um, the good in people. And what I mean by that is what they're able to do. I don't, I just, that's just how I think. I think about, well, what does this person give to the world? What are they able to contribute? And so when you think like that, you're open, and you have or I am. I've always been open. I've always had um, a certain level, a very high level of tolerance and patience for allowing others to be as independent as possible, which served me well, certainly as a physical therapist, because the whole goal in therapy is to return people or help people return to their either their either independence or their highest level of function. So I have, in my physical therapy career, have worked with adults, and most of the time it's been with older adults. I have always enjoyed working with that population. I've learned just as much from them as I would think that they learned from me. And what they've taught me really is more about life and wisdom than necessarily physical function. But I can teach them how to get out of the chair, and they could teach me how to, you know, be a good mom for my son who's having a bar mitzvah, and that's a true story. So, you know, it's just been part of who I am. I think being a caregiver, that's a big part of my personality that has drawn me to this type of work. And when I think of myself as a caregiver, it is a good role for me because I'm not just caring for the people who live inside River Garden. I also feel like I'm helping and caring for their families and for the people in the Jewish community and the larger community to help them reach their highest potential, and be able to help their families and live together and live their best life. So that's, I think it's been part of me my whole life, and this is a really good outlet for it.
Wonderful, wonderful. There's this fascinating series of books by, I think he's Israeli. His name is Tal Ben Shachar. He's also a professor at Harvard. At one point, he was like commuting between Tel Aviv and Boston, and his class in Harvard is on happiness. I'm not sure if he's still there. And one of the things he writes about is that there's a difference in your line of work if you view it as a career or as a calling. People that view it as just a career is that they're this position, they always want to rise to the next, get a promotion, which is not necessarily bad, but it doesn't necessarily give the person a sense of fulfillment. But people that view their occupation, their professional occupation, their vocation as a calling, really feel that that this is they're meeting their sense of fulfillment in life. They have a sense of purpose, and as you were talking, I sense that this is a way of a calling for you, which is really a blessing. Not just for yourself, but for the extended River Garden and Jewish community that we're I won't say we, but the community has somebody like yourself in this position. So I just wanted to, kind of wrap things up and just once again, wish you big yasher koach and thank you for all your amazing leadership. It's not the easiest of positions. I'm sure I don't know all the intricacies, but it's running a facility that's 24/7, 365. You just got to have a bunch of millions of moving parts all the time, and you like just sitting there so calm describing it. So thank you for everything you do for the community. It's such a mitzvah. This area, but approaching it with grace. Not only you, but your whole team at River Garden are such so outstanding in this, which is really one of the greatest mitzvahs of taking care of the elderly, because it's one generation closer to Sinai. Where we just inherit what they left for us. So thank you for everything you do, and everything River Garden does, and thank you for your time and coming on tonight.
Well, thank you. I truly appreciate it. What a lovely opportunity. I'll tell you, I certainly do not do this alone. And you've alluded to team many times. And yes, there are too many people to mention that make the work here at River Garden meaningful, interesting, and with a high level of competency and education and grace, like you said. So I don't do it alone, and thank God I don't have to, because nobody could do this. Nobody could do this alone. And again, rabbi work is definitely intensive and hard too, and I respect all that you do. And so thank you very much for what you do for the community and for having these types of conversations and allowing us to talk about what we do and how we can help the community. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate the time that you gave me tonight.
Thank you for your kind words. One of the objectives of this platform is for it to be educational to people and really enlighten them in areas that they're not necessarily so familiar with. So I think your comments tonight were spot on. So thank you for your time, and wishing you all the best and much success and continued excellence for you and your entire team at River Garden.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a great night.
You too.